Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, September 28th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It is the question at hand right now. Will San Diego Unified School District mandate COVID-19 vaccinations for thousands of students? The school board is holding a virtual meeting right now. The debate is happening online and in person as parents on both sides of the issue gather outside the district's headquarters. That's where KPBS education reporter MG Perez is standing by right now. MG, what can you tell us?
Well, Maya, board members have been meeting in closed session since about 3 o'clock this afternoon. And to be clear, they are at home meeting virtually and online and not here at the school administration building. In fact, there is no one in the building at the moment, but starting at about 3 o'clock this afternoon, many people started to show up here on the front lawn of the administration building. As you might expect, various groups are represented, political groups, parents groups, posters, American flags, and lots of discussion, shouting and yelling, and everyone has something to say.
That's here is anti-vaccine. We are, pro-choice, and we're anti-mandate. We just think that this is a decision that each family should make with their own physician.
Vaccines save lives. We have seen vaccines reduce the COVID rates across the country, and states who are implementing more vaccines have lower COVID rates. And it's really important for our schools to be safe places.
It's after 5 o'clock, and so the board has started its public session that will decide a mandate for vaccinations, but clearly this event has not ended. They continue to deliver speeches and also cheer for their side of the issue. Reporting live in University Heights, I'm MG Perez, KPBS News.
And this Thursday is the deadline for California's healthcare workers to get vaccinated for COVID-19. Two San Diego hospital groups say they are confident they will meet that deadline.
Now I've got 98% of our employees accounted for. So I've got 15,078 that are vaccinated, another under 180 that are actually in process of getting their second vaccination.
Scripps Health CEO Chris Van Gorder says the hospital has granted medical or religious exemptions to around 570 employees. Sharp Healthcare says 98 to 99% of its staff are fully vaccinated. Today, Pfizer submitted its research on its COVID vaccine for younger children to the FDA. Coming up on Evening Edition, how long it could be before kids ages 5 to 11 can get their shots. While the county has been dealing with the fourth wave of COVID-19, flu season has also begun. KPBS reporter Melissa May shows us how the National City Fire Department is helping its community get the flu vaccine.
Every year, tens of thousands of people die from the flu in the United States. The National City Fire Department knew that their community needed resources to help combat this contagious disease.
We're able to give free flu shots to the community. So anybody's welcome to come, 6 months and older.
National City Fire Department Captain and Paramedic Scott Robinson coordinated the partnership with the Point Loma Nazarene Nursing Program. This is the third consecutive year for the clinic. To date, thousands of vaccines have been administered at the fire station.
We are the first fire station in California at the time to give out flu shots in the fire station. So we designed a program that nursing students could come and get some clinical hours giving flu shots at the fire station where the public trusts us.
The fire department normally responds to calls when there is already a problem. Captain Robinson hopes the flu clinic helps reduce flu-related medical emergencies.
We can start with the primary prevention, which would be giving flu shots to help prevent them from getting sick in the first place so that we don't have to go to their house and help them take them to the hospital where it's expensive, especially if they're underinsured or uninsured.
Monique Sawyer is the Associate Dean of Nursing at Point Loma Nazarene University and says her students love working at the flu clinic.
We're always looking for creative clinical placements for them, and it's all about getting our students out into the community. Up to this point, they've been having hospital rotations, and this is the opportunity for them to finally get out and meet people where they're at and to meet an actual need.
Flu cases may have been low last year because of social distancing, mask wearing, kids were not in school, and people were working from home. But Sawyer reminds us,
flu's back. It comes back every year, and now that we are opened up, if you will, the flu has a lot more opportunities to spread. Just because COVID's here doesn't mean the flu isn't here either. They can exist together. We can be infected with both.
Sawyer wants the public to know when it comes to getting the COVID-19 and flu vaccines.
It is definitely safe to get them both.
They can be administered at the same time, but if you are unable to get them at the same time, allow for a 2-week window in between the two vaccines. The flu clinic takes place every Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. through the month of December, based on vaccine availability and community participation. Melissa May, KPBS News.
San Diego's mayor is in Washington, D.C. asking for help on several issues, including the border. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel has more from a business leader who says after a year and a half, it's time to lift restrictions on non-essential travel.
Mayor Gloria left for the nation's capital Tuesday to meet with White House officials and California senators. According to a news release sent out by his team, he'll be addressing San Diego's homeless crisis, infrastructure, pollution in the Tijuana River Valley, and the lifting of non-essential travel restrictions at the U.S.-Mexico border. It's Gloria's first visit to Washington, D.C. since he was elected mayor last year. But it's not his first time he has tried to advocate for the full reopening of our southern border. In July, he sent a letter to the DHS secretary saying small businesses dependent on border crossings were hurting. Local business leaders are glad to hear Gloria is pressing on the issue, but aren't sure what will come from it.
Mayor Gloria, County Supervisor Nora Vargas, they've both been fabulous on this issue. Unfortunately, they've been ignored just as I have.
Jason Wells with the San Ysidro Chamber of Commerce says he's also tried bringing attention to the matter. On Monday, the chamber made their latest cry for help. They sent a letter to California Congressman Juan Vargas.
Over 2,000 jobs that have been lost. There's 2,000 families that can no longer feed their children because of a political decision.
He says more than $1 billion have been lost in retail sales in the last year.
The numbers I give you are just San Ysidro. So there's a multiplier effect for Imperial Beach, National City, Chula Vista, etc. But then it's not just San Diego County. It's happening in Brownsville, it's happening in Calexico, it's happening in El Paso, in Los Cruces. This is happening between, here in Texas.
Wells hopes October 21st will be the end of border restrictions.
If we go through another year without a holiday season, you can chalk up another at least 100 businesses that'll be gone, another 1,000 jobs that'll be lost forever.
Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
Lawmakers in Washington are in a race against time to avoid a government shutdown and prevent a default of the U.S. government in its debt. Here's reporter Chris Nguyen.
A dire warning in Washington.
It is imperative that Congress address the debt limit. If not, our current estimate is that Treasury will likely exhaust its extraordinary measures by October 18th. America would default for the first time in history.
If the U.S. runs out of money to pay its bills, the Treasury Secretary says the impact would likely be catastrophic, tanking markets and the economy. Social Security checks may be delayed, interest rates on credit cards and car loans could rise, and soldiers might not even know when their paychecks were coming.
The full faith and credit of the United States would be impaired.
This after Senate Republicans blocked a Democratic effort to combine government funding with suspending the debt limit, which is traditionally addressed on a bipartisan basis.
There's no chance Republicans will help lift Democrats' credit limit so they can immediately steamroll through a socialist binge that will hurt families.
Failure to pass a funding resolution could lead to a shutdown by the end of the week. Congressional Democrats now scrambling to avert a potential crisis.
We're trying to get everybody together, and we're trying to do it as quickly as possible.
The House also facing a Thursday vote on a $1.2 trillion infrastructure package as negotiations continue on a separate $3.5 trillion bill that includes much of President Biden's domestic agenda, which could deliver the largest safety net expansion in decades. In Washington, Chris Wynn, KPBS News.
The top U.S. military officer gave his first congressional testimony on the withdrawal from Afghanistan, calling the 20-year war a strategic failure.
Discuss this. Would you use the term extraordinary success for what took place in August in Afghanistan?
That's the non-combatant evacuation, and I think one of the other senators said it very well. It was a logistical success, but a strategic failure. And I think those are two different terms.
General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, also says he believes the U.S. should have kept at least 2,500 troops in the country to prevent a Taliban takeover. In his testimony to the Senate Armed Services Committee, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said fewer than 100 American citizens who want to leave are still in Afghanistan.
We got out 21 American citizens today, along with their family members. And we'll continue to work this, as you've heard us say earlier. The numbers fluctuate daily, and because more people come to light as time goes by, and they see opportunities to safely leave. And so this has been a dynamic process, but again, we will stay focused on this.
Austin said the withdrawal from Afghanistan was the largest airlift conducted in U.S. history, and it was executed in 17 days. Schools across San Diego County call the police on hundreds of students every year, and some of the most vulnerable kids are getting the brunt of it. iNewsSource investigative reporter Jennifer Bowman has more.
When other kids accused Joshua Zavala of threatening to attack his middle school, he was taken to a mental health facility for 3 days. Joshua, who has autism, denies making the threat, but he was still left with an intense fear of cops that persists today.
I was sitting down and I was waiting for them to come back after talking a bit, and all of a sudden they just said, okay, you have to come with us, and then they put me in handcuffs.
School officials in San Diego County say they only contact police for the most serious violations. But iNewsSource found Black students and kids with disabilities are being disproportionately reported. And some of the schools calling the cops the most serve students who have already encountered the juvenile court system. Experts say educators shouldn't rely on policies that are creating disparities.
We gotta have grace with kids. We gotta protect kids. We have to love kids. We have to, no matter what, we still have to really believe in them and their potential.
School officials tell iNewsSource they continue to improve their disciplinary policies. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Jennifer Bowman.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. At long last, the largest wildfire of 2021 is finally near containment. Crews say the Dixie Fire should be contained by week's end. It began way back on July 13th and has burned close to 964,000 acres and destroyed the communities of Greenville and Canyon Dam. In all, 1,329 structures have burned, and worst yet, one firefighter died, 3 others injured. California grapples with wildfires every year, and a new analysis of satellite imagery by NPR's California Newsroom and Stanford University's Environmental Change and Human Outcomes Lab finds wildfire smoke is causing problems far away from the fire zones. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson says smoke is a growing problem, even in San Diego County.
Wildfires are a part of life in Southern California. Flames race out of control, evacuations are ordered, fire crews respond, and after hours, days, and in some cases weeks, the blaze is finally snuffed out and the damage is assessed. But new research finds the flames are not the only problem. Wildfire smoke has greatly extended the damaging reach of these out-of-control blazes.
I refer to them as the long arm of the fire.
Neil Driscoll is a Scripps Institution of Oceanography researcher who helps firefighters track wildfire movement in Southern California.
These plumes can go long distances. We noticed that this year. We had areas in New England being shut down because of air quality from fires that were in California.
In San Diego, the amount of smoke in the air has more than tripled over the last decade. NPR's California newsroom teamed with researchers at Stanford University to analyze satellite images of wildfire smoke. Stanford's Marshall Burke worked on the project.
We've seen a clear upward trend in San Diego County and across other parts of Southern California, an upward trend in the number of days with smoke plumes in the air, and a rapid increase in the number of days with these very heavy, these dense smoke plumes overhead.
The investigation found Oceanside residents are now living with more than a month of smoke a year. It's the same for other parts of North County like Escondido, Fallbrook, and Camp Pendleton. In Imperial County, some areas outside El Centro are now experiencing 2 months of smoke a year. Even so, Burke says the local region didn't get the worst of it.
Southern California did get hit with wildfire exposure, but really parts of Northern California, the Bay Area, got hit really hard just because of this confluence of wind direction and where exactly the active wildfires are.
But the smoke is still impacting health in San Diego and Imperial counties. The analysis found a 17% increase in hospitalizations for respiratory and cardiac conditions in the heavy fire year of 2018 compared to just 2 years before. Prescriptions for asthma medication, albuterol, spiked by nearly 21% between 2013 and 2018.
It can be very bad for people with pre-existing heart or lung disease.
Greg Hirsch is an Escondido pulmonologist. He says wildfire smoke is notoriously bad for people. Healthy folks can experience coughing, lung irritation, and shortness of breath. In more serious cases, it can cause asthma and heart disease. Hirsch is particularly concerned about tiny particles smaller than 2.5 microns that can get past the upper airways.
They get down into the smaller airways or the alveoli, the air sacs where the gas exchange occurs. They can be difficult to get rid of.
The wildfire smoke is particularly dangerous in communities of color that are already coping with poor air quality. Barrio Logan, San Ysidro, and Escondido face additional challenges. Their air is polluted because of traffic or industry. San Diego County Supervisor Nora Vargas chairs the Regional Air Board. She says politicians and regulators need to take extra steps to help communities of color cope, for instance, by providing alerts about poor air quality.
Give our communities the tools that they need so they're very mindful and they know when pollution isn't at those levels so that they're able to also protect themselves.
Vargas says making sure people are aware of the risks of dirty air and giving them access to health care are important for working-class communities. She knows the Air Board can't regulate wildfire smoke, but regulators can work to reduce other pollution sources that amplify the smoke's health impacts.
We are really thinking about what are the potential risks of the different industries that are in the region to be able to mitigate that. I think that's another huge issue for us.
Meanwhile, fires continue to burn in California. There are more than a dozen active battles against wildfires. Flames from more than 7,700 blazes have already charred more than 2.4 million acres in California just this year. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Hope you're having an excellent Tuesday, and thanks for tuning in to KPBS. I'm Marvin Gomez. Let's talk about our forecast here in San Diego County. Heading into the next couple of days, temperatures are warming up in many areas during the afternoon, but of course in the morning hours, especially tomorrow morning, we're waking up to foggy conditions, and then some sunshine will be with us during the afternoon. Next week, this is really far. Looking at the road ahead, there's going to be the possibility for some cooler conditions again. again. And into tonight, we're keeping some of those cool conditions in a few spots. 47 degrees your low in Mount Laguna. Borrego Springs, 59 degrees there. Looking at mainly clear conditions. San Diego County, mid-60s. Heading into our Wednesday, cool and dry weather for most of the southwest. Throughout the Four Corners, we are tracking showers and storms, and we're going to keep all of that action basically in that general area. We're waking up, as I mentioned, to foggy conditions along the coast on Wednesday morning, but for the afternoon, many spots will see sunshine, and many areas along the coast will be warming up into the mid-70s. Borrego Springs, you are warming up to 89 degrees for your afternoon. Into Thursday, nice, quiet weather for California, Nevada. Again, spotty showers and storms will be in place for the Four Corners, both on Thursday and also as we head into your Friday. Along the coast, temperatures warming up into the low 80s as we head towards our Friday, and Friday is going to be the day where temperatures are getting into the upper 80s in inland areas, possibly very close to 90 degrees into Saturday. Looking at the higher terrain, the mountains, we're in the 60s, low 60s for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, possibly mid-60s for our Saturday and also into our Sunday. Last but not least, in the deserts, we are staying nice and quiet, mostly sunny skies, temperatures getting into the 90s for the second half of the work week, and potentially we're looking at triple digits there as we head into your Sunday afternoon. For KPBS News, I'm Marvin Gomez.
Are you ready to make your voice heard? Today is National Voter Registration Day, and it comes one day after Governor Gavin Newsom signed a slew of bills to expand voting rights and access. Under the new legislation, all registered voters in California will get mail ballots in future elections. The change was first adopted during the pandemic for the 2020 presidential and recall elections. You can check your voter registration status online at sdvote.com. Pfizer is one step closer to seeking authorization of its COVID vaccine for younger children. Today, the company submitted its research on children ages 5 to 11 to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Mandy Gaither has more on the timeline.
One step closer to better protection for children from COVID-19. In a matter of days, Pfizer CEO says the company plans to apply to the FDA for use of its vaccine in younger children.
If they approve it, we will be ready with our manufacturing to provide this new formulation of the vaccine.
For months, Pfizer has been testing 1/3 of the dose now given to adults and children ages 5 to 11. The company says this formulation is safe for that age group, but the FDA and CDC will have the final say.
As soon as they get submitted to the FDA, I know the FDA is urgently planning to review these data. It will go from the FDA to the CDC, and we will review it with similar urgency, and I'm hoping in the order of weeks.
Before a green light can be given for this vaccine in younger children, there's a lot of data to comb through. But one health expert says if Pfizer applies this week, a decision could come by the end of October.
This is a vaccine for children, so getting the dose right in terms of both efficacy and side effects is crucial.
Right now, Pfizer's vaccine is only approved for use in people 12 and older, but according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, more than a quarter of all COVID-19 cases reported nationwide are now in children, increasing the urgency to get kids protected.
I wouldn't be so cavalier about this virus. We know that this virus has long-term consequences in a lot of people who contract it, including children.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
We've redesigned our website, kpbs.org, and it looks a little bit different, but you can still find the latest on the pandemic and resources in the Tracking COVID-19 section. You'll find it under the News tab on our homepage. Costco is known for buying in bulk, but now it's laying down some limits on some certain products. Michelle Geely explains.
Getting a hold of a large stash of toilet paper or paper towels could be an issue once again, as big box retailers like Costco have restricted the amount customers can buy.
I mean, nothing I can do, but it's, I guess, almost like going back to like the whole toilet paper thing, but you know, hopefully we don't go in that direction again.
A sign posted near the paper products at the Garden Grove Costco Friday set a limit of 1 package of Bounty and Kirkland brand paper towels per shopper. Employees said certain cleaning products and cases of water were being limited as well.
If I knew that, I would have gotten one because I remember how it was.
Max, they had only one per customer.
What do you think?
I think that will help it spread it around.
High demand for some items can be linked to the spread of the Delta variant, but there's also the issues of delays in the supply chain system, according to economists. It's causing a huge backup in the delivery of consumer goods. The traffic jam of cargo ships outside of the ports of LA and Long Beach illustrates part of the problem.
They just have not been able to get all that merchandise from the ports. The lines, they say here in Port of LA and Long Beach, is longer than at any other time.
Outside of Costco, this couple talked about seeing the long line of ships stacked up in the ocean.
If they get it there, they can't transport it. So that causes the backup all through the system.
So, and hopefully we can get people back to work, you know, in the ports and in trucking and get the supplies back out to the people.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, strategic failure. Top U.S. military leaders contradict President Biden on America's withdrawal from Afghanistan. That's coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Some history in the making today. In Chicago, President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle broke ground on the Obama Presidential Center. The 44th president said at the ceremony that he wants the center to be more than a museum or archives.
It won't just be an exercise in nostalgia or looking backwards. We want to look forward. We want this to be a living, thriving home for concerts, cultural events, lectures, trainings, summits, topical dialogues and conversations. We want this to be a hub for in-house fellows with real-world experience to share what's working and what's not in solving the big problems of the day.
And you might remember President Obama started his political career in Chicago. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.